Welcome back to the deep dive. We're here to take really complex information, break it down, and give you the key insights you can actually use.
Today, we are getting into VMware Area Automation.
Yeah.
What used to be called Cloud Assembly.
Mhm.
It's the engine for modern infrastructure, and if you really want to get good with it, you have to understand its core parts.
Absolutely. We've been looking at material that, really defines what it means to be competent in this space. This is the stuff that separates a beginner from someone who can actually run a big multi-cloud setup.
Right.
So our mission today is to give you a really structured kind of operational view of the system architecture. We're talking resource control, standardization, and policy.
It's all about getting fluent with the concepts. These are the pillars that hold up the whole area ecosystem.
So let's get into it, and let's start at the very beginning. Managing the platform itself, if you've got this powerful suite, you need a way to keep it running.
Yeah, installation, patching, upgrades, for everything. Area automation, operations, logs, the whole package.
Right. So if I'm the one in charge of the platform, I need one place to go for all of that maintenance. A single pane of glass.
Precisely. And this is a really common point of confusion for people, especially if they're coming from older VMware stacks.
How so?
Well, they often think vCenter or maybe SDDC Manager is going to handle all that. But those tools, they focus on the underlying infrastructure lifecycle.
Not the product lifecycle.
Exactly. Not the automation layer itself. So for the whole area suite, what is that one component that's dedicated to centralizing the install, the patching, all of it?
What's the tool built just for that product lifecycle management?
That essential tool is VMware Area Suite Lifecycle. And its value is, it's way more than just installing software.
Okay.
By centralizing the lifecycle, it ensures your deployments are consistent. It guarantees that when you roll out an upgrade, you have, strict version control across all those linked area products. It stops things from drifting apart and becoming a total mess.
So that's day zero, getting the platform up and running. Okay, now let's jump forward. We've provisioned a brand new VM. It's running, but, life is just getting started. What do we call all the things we do to that VM after it's been built?
This is fundamental terminology in cloud automation. We're talking about everything that happens after provisioning.
Like resizing a server or taking a snapshot before a big change.
Exactly. Changing its owner, adding a disk, running a script on it, all that ongoing stuff.
Okay, so what's the collective term for all those post-provisioning tasks?
They're grouped together as day two actions. And really, the power of ARIA automation is letting users do these things themselves, without filing a ticket for every little thing.
That's a key point. Day two isn't just one day.
No, not at all. It's the continuous management of that resource for its entire life.
Got it. So you're not really automating until you automate that full life cycle, day two included. Okay, let's shift from maintenance to defining the architecture. We need to decide where things live and how we size them.
Exactly. When an admin looks at their infrastructure, it's just this huge landscape.
Yeah.
You've got clusters in your data center, regions in AWS, zones in Azure. It's chaos. You need to put some structure on top of that.
So if I'm an administrator and I need to define a logical box, a compute boundary that groups resources together for a specific region, what is that structure called in area?
That boundary is called a cloud zone.
Yeah.
Think of it as the ultimate abstraction layer for deciding where things go.
And what does it do exactly?
It groups the underlying infrastructure, so your vSphere clusters, your resource pools, or maybe a public cloud region, and just presents it as one unified place you can deploy to.
Wait, hold on. Why do I need this extra layer? Why can't I just tell my blueprint to deploy directly to a vSphere resource pool? That's already a boundary.
That is a great question.
Sure.
And it gets right to the heart of real automation architecture. A cloud zone gives you platform-level control.
It's about abstraction.
Yeah. If you only used resource pools, your blueprints would be stuck, hard-coded to vSphere. The cloud zone lets you treat a vSphere cluster and an Azure region as basically the same thing from the blueprint's perspective. It's what makes multi-cloud possible without rewriting everything.
Ah, I see. So it hides the infrastructure details from the person requesting the machine.
Totally.
Okay, so once we know where it's going, we have to talk about standardization. We can't have users just typing in 3.5 CPUs and 7.1 gigs of RAM. We need t-shirt sizes. Small, medium, large.
Absolutely. Standardization is it's vital for consistency, for billing, for everything. So you need to map those friendly names, like small, to actual concrete CPU and memory configs.
And which feature lets an admin define those standard sizes and link them to the real configurations?
That is flavor mapping. It's a simple concept, but it's incredibly powerful. The user just picks medium from a menu.
Right.
And the flavor mapping translates that into, say, 4 vCPUs and 8 GB of RAM. And it does that consistently no matter where you're deploying.
And just like the Cloud Zone, this is another step towards abstraction, right? It standardizes the catalog for the user, regardless of whether that VM ends up on vSphere or on an EC2 instance type in Amazon.
Exactly right. And that consistency means fewer mistakes and, just as important, predictable costs.
Okay, now we're moving into what I think of as the control layer. Section 3, governance, compliance, oversight. We've built the house, now we're writing the rules for living in it.
And governance policies they're probably the biggest reason to even use a platform like this. They provide the guardrails. Let's start with the most common one, cost control.
Yeah, okay, so picture this. A user requests some huge database cluster, a deployment that could cost thousands of dollars a month. You need a checkpoint. So how do you set up a rule that says a manager has to review and approve that expensive request before it gets built?
That's handled by an approval policy. You configure it to intercept the request if it meets certain criteria. Usually cost, but it could be the size of the VM or something else.
So it's basically a speed bump.
It's an essential organizational speed bump. It stops runaway spending before it starts. It's the platform saying, whoa, hang on, this looks expensive. Let's get another set of eyes on it.
Okay, so that's budget control. What about administrative consistency? Naming things. In a big company, bad naming conventions are they're a nightmare for troubleshooting and security.
And in an automated world, you just can't trust humans to type in the right name every time. You need a system that ensures every single VM follows a strict, predictable format. Something like ProJ region 001, and it just counts up automatically.
So how does an admin force that kind of strict naming standard on everything?
That is done with a custom naming policy. As policy just automates the whole name generation process. You give it a pattern, maybe using the project name or a counter, and it takes care of the rest.
And that must be huge for integrating with other tools.
Oh, massive. Think about your CMDB, your configuration management database. If every resource is instantly identifiable and compliant, life gets so much easier. That administrative relief it's priceless.
And consistency is the foundation for everything else you want to automate.
It is.
Which brings us perfectly into our next section. Section 4, integration, automation, and customization. How we connect area to the rest of the world.
Right. We talked about names, but there are other critical services that need to be part of the provisioning process. The classic example is IP address management, or IPM. Systems like Infoblocks that hand out IP addresses.
Okay, so if I'm setting up area to talk to my IPM system so that every new VM automatically gets a reserved IP address, where in the platform do I go to set up that connection?
You manage all of those third-party connections in the integration section. It's the central hub for linking area to external services, IPM, monitoring tools, security scanners, you name it.
And that's critical because it makes the workflow truly end-to-end.
Exactly. It handles all those external dependencies automatically.
Okay, let's take it up a notch. True event-driven automation. I want to trigger a custom script, but not on a schedule. I want it to run at the exact moment a resource hits a specific state, like that post-provisioning state we talked about earlier.
This is where the platform gets really sophisticated. It moves from just orchestrating steps to managing events. You need something that is actively listening for those state changes to happen.
Like a switchboard operator.
That's a great way to put it. It routes the event to the right custom logic.
So what's the mechanism that lets you trigger a workflow at that specific lifecycle moment?
That is an event broker subscription. The event broker is basically the nervous system of the platform. When a lifecycle event happens, a VM gets created, deleted, whatever the event broker sees it. A subscription is just you telling it to listen for that specific event and then run something, like a VRO workflow or a script.
The power there seems incredible. You could, for example, trigger a firewall rule update at the exact moment a VM finishes booting.
Precisely. It lets you inject your own business logic at these very precise moments, all without changing the core platform.
Okay, so from internal logic, let's talk about the user-facing side. The request form. The default form for a blueprint might be, well, too generic. Admins need to add drop-downs, maybe hide technical fields that would just confuse people.
Yeah, you want the user experience to be simple and mistake-proof. If the default form isn't guiding the user correctly, You need to be able to control that interface.
So which feature gives an administrator the power to totally redesign that request form? Add conditional fields, validations, all of it.
Those are custom forms, and they are indispensable. You can use them to make sure a dropdown only shows projects the user actually has access to, or force them to enter a ticket number before they can submit. It tailors the whole request process to how your business actually works. It cuts down on so many errors.
And for our last nugget here, this one's for the admins building these blueprints. You've just created this amazing piece of automation, and you have to document it for the next person. When you're adding notes and instructions right inside the blueprint canvas, what text format does it support for structuring that text with headings and lists?
The standard format for that is Markdown. It's the perfect choice, really. It's simple, everyone knows it, and you can easily structure your notes, asterisks for lists, hashtags for headers. It just makes complex blueprints so much more readable for other people.
But here's a final thought for you, something that connects a couple of these ideas in an interesting way.
We saw that custom naming policies create this absolute rigidity. Names are consistent, predictable, which is great for auditing, but then we also talked about these flexible day 2 actions, often triggered by the event broker.
And that creates a fascinating operational question. If your script for a day 2 action relies on that rigid, automated name to find the resource it needs to act on, how does that required consistency impact the flexibility of the actions you want to run?
That's a great point. Does the strictness you need for the naming policy actually make it harder or more complicated to run these free-flowing, event-driven modifications on that resource later?
It forces you to think about the hidden dependencies you're building. Does perfect consistency always lead to perfect flexibility?
Something to think about the next time you're designing a blueprint.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll catch you next time.